off, I want to say all praise to the Most High Yahweh, in His Son's name Yahweh Shai. I want to get this started. Basic, simple teaching, bringing it back to the basics. This is a multi-part teaching, so there'll be a couple of parts. This is part one. As we go along, we'll get deeper in the evidence and bring the truth out. Alright, so we're going to start off with 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, verse 40. So you can find this, if you don't have it, you can find it, 2nd Esdras, King James Version, on kingjamesbibleonline.org. I'll leave the link in the description. So we're going to start off, remember this is 2nd Esdras, chapter 13, and we're going to start with verse 40. Alright. So verse 40 says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Ozias the king, whom Salmanasseh the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Sorry, never mankind dwelt. Alright, so we know that China, Europe, Africa, Middle East, we know all of that was populated with inhabitants. So this couldn't be the area where Esdras was talking about. So verse 42 says that they may keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land, and they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. Alright, so I'm going to show you the Assyria Empire. So the Assyria Empire spread it through from Syria, from what we know today as Syria, to Iraq. I'm going to show you on a different map right here. It was Syria and Iraq, and the Euphrates River ran through both Syria and Iraq. So what they did was, being that they were in this area, they took the Euphrates River out through the Persian Gulf and around. And that's the trail that they took, the Euphrates River out into the Persian Gulf. Verse 44. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and hell stood the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely 1.5 years, and the same region is called Arsareth. I'm going to show you, this is Iraq on the map, where the Euphrates River is at. So this is where they hopped on the Euphrates River and left through Iraq out into Kuwait, right? So they took the whole Persian Gulf down by the side of Africa, and then came around and up. So that whole trip right there was 1.5 years. It was 1.5 years to go all the way from Iraq through the Persian Gulf, around Africa, and into the Caribbean islands, what is known as South America and Central America. Okay, so let's take a look at the Jewish Encyclopedia from jewishencyclopedia.com. So it says, the name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses unto the time of restoration, according to Esdras. Columbus identified America with this land. So it says Columbus identified America with this land. Let's see how Christopher Columbus associated this land with America.
Why did you wish to sail west? To open a new route to Asia.
Alright, pay attention real quick. He says to find a new route to Asia.
Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold.
Asia is the richest kingdom, right? So he thought he was going to Asia. Pay attention to this though. Remember this part right here, because this part is detrimental to what I'm gonna bring out later. pay attention. And like I said, this is nothing new. This is everybody, a lot of people know about this already, but common sense, man. There's common sense that people are missing, but let's get back to the video.
Asia is the richest kingdom, the land of spices and gold. At the moment, there are only two ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year.
Oh, notice that? By sea, sailing around the African continent, the journey takes a year. So, he wants to head to Asia, right? He's looking for a new route to Asia. So, Asia is right here, correct? Okay, so he's talking about going through land, but that the Turks have closed it up, so he can't go through land. But that the only way is by, another way is by sailing around Africa. And then, but he said that took about, that just going around Africa takes a year. A year. Didn't I just bring it up that when they came out of Assyria and over here, according to 2nd Esdras, the trip was a year and a half?
At the moment, there are only two ways of reaching it. By sea, sailing around the African continent. The journey takes a year. Or by land. But the Turks have closed this route to all Christians. There is a third way. By sailing west across the ocean sea.
The distance is unknown. It's said to be infinite.
Superstition. I believe the Indies are no more than 750 leagues west of the Canary Islands.
How can you be so certain?
The calculations of Toscanelli, Marin de Tir, Esdras.
Esdras is a Jew.
So what's worse?
2 minutes, and already you're a dead man.
For telling the truth?
Yes. We are burning people for less. The men you're about to confront have no emotion.
They have no emotions. His rulers, Christopher Columbus' rulers, had no emotions. These people were heartless, which I'm going to get into again later.
Why do you wish to sail west?
To open a new route to Asia.
Alright, so like I said, none of this information is new. All this information is already out there. It's been out there. But like I said, I'm bringing it back. I'm allowing the people that are now starting to hear it at least get a fresh look at it. So anyway, in this book right here, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, talks about Columbus, and it talks about. All right, let's just look at it. So, chapter 8, right? This would be page 92. So right here we see it says, we do not know much concerning Columbus' crew of about 90 men aboard the 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite, so-called Israelite, whose presence as such was not merely accidental. This was Louis de Torres, a convert of possibly only that year. So he was a convert. He just converted to basically probably Judaism at that time. Alright, so then it says, who had once held a position with the governor of Murcia. He was said to have known Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Arabic. So now, supposedly, Columbus was going over there because he thought he was going to Asia. But if he was going to Asia, then why would he bring someone who speaks Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Arabic? Where's the Asian, the Chinese, or whatever? Mobile, whatever it was that they spoke over there in Asia at that time. So that's something to question in this book, you know, in history, as a matter of fact, that the fact that Christopher Columbus brought a Hebrew-speaking, you know, man. All right, so continuing on. Page 363, we read about a man named Montezinos. Alright, he was a traveler, explorer, possibly a convert himself. But so he's talking about when he was traveling in the wild mountains of Quito, that's located in Ecuador, right? So he goes and, you know, on his exploration, he becomes incarcerated in Cartagena. So when he gets out, which is Colombia, by the way, when he gets out, he wants to, you know, when he's locked up, he starts remembering about something. So he starts praying when he was locked up, right? And he goes, "So blessed be the name of the Lord, who has not made me an idolater, a barbarian, a Negro, an Indian. When suddenly be stopped, those Indians," he told himself, "they are Hebrews." So he's in jail and he's praying, and, you know, during his prayer, he's like, "Oh snap, those Indians are Hebrews," right? So he gets out and he's released, and as you can see right here, he was released. So when he's released, he wants to go back to the mountains to go look for these people again. So here we go. It goes, "Two men were soon back in the rugged mountains in which Francisco had made his initial revelation." So right, so they go back. All right, they go back to where he had made that initial revelation, where he found those Indians that he said were Hebrew. So waving a banner high in the air, the Indian guide soon was greeted by a puff of smoke far beyond the other bank of the river. In response to his signal, the two men waited. Eventually a canoe appeared, bearing 3 men and a woman, all of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montezinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montezinos could not understand. Although he could perceive that he was being identified in the conversation, she then turned to her male companions to explain the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montezinos, and to his utter astonishment said, "Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental creed of Judaism. A brief conversation then ensued in their common ancestral tongue. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on the island nearby.
The men you're about to confront, no emotion. The men you're about to confront, no emotion.